It's simple. Explains the TV information. Simply put your old gold jewelry in the prepaid insured envelope and we'll send you a check for the value of the gold in just 2 days. MyGoldEnvelope.com is one of the leaders in this country, serving as a broker for gold to be sent to a refinery, melted down, and reintroduced into the commodity market. When Douglas Fearston and Michael Moran started the company, they wanted to be the best in the business. They wanted to transform an industry. One sec. They wanted to transform an industry with the reputation of a back alley pawn shop and give it a bit of a Tiffany's shame. They invested money in making the experience perfect. They worked to make the customer service experience ideal. They were both successful entrepreneurs and knew the value of building a brand and a strong customer experience. They spent a lot of money trying to get the balance right, and they made sure to explain the difference in direct response advertising on various local and national cable stations. Better than the similar offers, they would say, and they were right. But the investment didn't pay off as expected. Carrots and sticks. A few months later, Fiestan and Moran made a significant discovery. Almost all of their customers did business with them only once. They had a transactional business, yet they were trying to make it much more than that. So they stopped trying to make the service better than similar offers and instead settled with the good. Given that most people were not going to become repeat customers, there weren't going to be any head-to-head comparisons made to the other services. All they needed to do was drive a purchase decision and offer a pleasant enough experience that people would recommend it to a friend. Any more was unnecessary. Once the owners of mygoldenenvelope.com realized that they didn't need to invest in the things that build loyalty if all they wanted to do was drive transactions. The business became for transactions that occur on an average of funds, carrots and sticks are the best way to elicit the desired behavior. When the police officer a reward, they're not looking to nurture a relationship with the witness or tipster. It is just a single transaction. When you lose your kitten and offer a reward to get it back, you don't need to have a lasting relationship with the person returning it. You just want your cat back. Manipulations are a perfectly valid strategy for driving a transaction or for any behavior that is only required once or on rare occasions. The rewards that the police use are designed to incentivize witnesses to come forward to provide tips or evidence that may lead to an arrest. And like any promotion, the manipulation will work if the incentive feels high, encouraged to mitigate the risk. In any circumstance in which a person or organization wants more than a single transaction, however, if there is a hope for a loyal, lasting relationship, manipulations do not help. Does a politician want your vote, for example, or does he or she want a lifetime of support and loyalty from you? Judging by how elections are run these days, it seems all they want is to win elections. Ads discrediting opponents, a focus on single issues, an uncomfortable reliance on fear or aspirational desires are all indicators. Those tactics win elections, but they do not seed loyalties among the voters. The American car industry learned the hard way with the high cost of relying on manipulations to build a business, and loyalty was what they really needed to nurture. While manipulations may be a viable strategy when times are good and money is flesh, a change in market conditions made them too expensive. When the oil crisis of 2008 hit, the auto industry's promotions and incentives became untenable. The same thing happened in the 1970s. In this case, how long the manipulations could produce short term gains was defined by the length of time the economy could sustain the strategy. This is a fundamentally weak platform upon which to build a business, an assumption of never-ending boom. Though loyal customers are less tempted by other offers and incentives, in good times the free flow of business makes it hard to recognize their value. It's in the tough times that loyal customers matters most. Manipulations work, but they cost money, lots of money. When the money is not as available to fund these tactics, not having a loyal following really hurts. After September 11, there were customers who sent checks to Southwest Airlines to show their support. One note that accompanied a check for $1,000 read, "You've been so good to me over the years. In these hard times, I wanted to say thank you by helping you out." The checks that Southwest Airlines received were certainly not enough to make any significant impact on the company's bottom line, but they were symbolic of the feeling customers had for the brand. They had a sense of partnership. The loyal behavior of those who didn't send money is almost impossible to measure, but its impact has been invaluable over the long term, helping Southwest to maintain its position as the most profitable airline in history. Carrots and sticks. Knowing you have a loyal customer and employee base not only reduces costs, it provides massive peace of mind. Like loyal friends, you know your customers and employees will be there for you even for you when you need them most. It is the feeling of we are in this together, shared between customer and company, voter and candidate, boss and employee, will define great leaders. In contrast, relying on manipulations creates massive stress for buyer and seller alike. For the buyer, it has become increasingly difficult to know which product, service, brand, or company is best. I joke about the proliferation of toothpaste varieties and the difficulty of choosing the right one. But toothpaste is just a metaphor. Nearly every decision we are asked to make every single day is like choosing toothpaste, deciding what law firm to hire, college to attend, car to buy, company to work for, candidate to elect. There are just too many choices. All the all the advertising all the advertising, promotions, and pressure employed to tempt us one way or another, each attempting to push harder than the other to quote us for our money or our support. To the companies too, whose obligation it is to help us decide, their ability to do some so has gotten more and more difficult. Every day the competition is doing something new, something better. To constantly have to come up with a new promotion, a new guerrilla marketing tactic, a new feature to add his hard work, combined with long-term effects of years of short-term decisions that have eroded profit margins. This raises stress levels inside organizations as well. When manipulations are the norm, no one wins. It's not an accident that doing business today and being in the workforce today is more stressful than it used to be. Peter Y. Borrow, in his book American Mania, When More Is Not Enough, argues argues that many of the ills that we suffer from today have very little to do with the bad food we are eating or the partially hydrogenated oils in our diet. Rather, Vibro says it's the way that corporate America. Can you hear me? Hello? Uh,
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you.
yeah, okay. Has developed that has increased our stress to levels so high, we're literally making ourselves sick because of it. Americans are suffering ulcers, depression, high blood pressure, anxiety, and cancer at record levels. According to Vibro, all those promises of more are actually overloading the reward circuits of our brain. The short term gains that drive business in America today are actually destroying our health. Just because it works doesn't make it right. The danger of manipulations is that they work. And because manipulations work, they have become the norm, practiced by the vast majority of companies and organizations, regardless of size or industry. The fact alone creates a systemic peer pressure. With perfect irony, we speak The fact alone creates a systemic peer pressure. With perfect irony, we, the manipulators, have been manipulated by our own system.
With every price drop, promotion, fear based or aspirational message, and novelty, we use to achieve our goals. We find our companies, our organizations, and our systems getting weaker and weaker. The economic crisis that began in 2008 is just another, albeit extreme, example of what can happen if a flawed assumption is allowed to carry on for too long. The collapse of the housing market and the subsequent collapse of the banking industry were due to decisions made inside the banks based on a series of manipulations. Employees were manipulated with bonuses that encouraged short sighted decision making. Open, open shaming of anyone who spoke out discouraged responsible dissent. A free flow of loans encouraged aspiring home buyers to buy more than they could afford at all price levels. There was a very little loyalty. It was all a series of transactional decisions, effective but at a high cost. Few were working for the good of the whole. Why would they? There was no reason given to do so. There was no cause or belief beyond instant gratification. Bankers weren't the first to be swept up by their own success. American car manufacturers have conducted themselves the same way for decades. Manipulation after manipulation, short term decision built upon short term decision, buckling or even collapse is the only logical conclusion when manipulations are the main course of action. The reality is today's world, um, the reality is in today's world, manipulations are the norm. But there is an alternative. Part 2, an alternative perspective. The golden circle. Why, how, what? There are few leaders who choose to inspire rather than manipulate in order to motivate people. Whether individuals or organizations, every single one of these inspiring leaders thinks, acts, and communicates exactly the same way. And it's the complete opposite of the rest of us. Consciously or not, how do they do it is by following a naturally occurring pattern that I call the golden circle. The concept of the golden circle was inspired by the golden ratio, a simple mathematical relationship that has fascinated mathematicians, biologists, architects, artists, musicians, and naturalists since the beginning of history. From the Egyptians to Pythagoras to Leonardo da Vinci, many have looked to the golden ratio to provide a mathematical formula for proportion and even beauty. It also supports the notion that there is more order in nature than we think, as in the symmetry of leaves and the geometric of perfection of snowflakes. When I found so attractive about the golden ratio, however, was that it had so many applications in so many fields. And even more significantly, it offered a formula that could produce repeatable and predictable results in places where such results might have been assumed to be a random occurrence or luck. Even Mother Nature, for most people, a symbol of unpredictability, exhibited more order than we previously acknowledged, like the golden ratio, which offers evidence of order in the seeming disorder of nature. The golden circle finds order and predictability in human behavior. But put simply, it helps us understand why we do that, what we do. The golden circle provides compelling evidence of how much more we can achieve if we remind ourselves to start everything we do by first asking why. The golden circle is an alternative perspective to existing assumptions about why some leaders and organizations and organizations, sorry for that, and organizations. Where did I stop?
Organization have achieved such a disproportionate degree of influence.
Influence. It offers clear insight as to how Apple is able to innovate in so many diverse industries and never lose its ability to do so. To do so, it explains why people tattoo Harley Davidson logos on their bodies. It provides a clearer understanding not just of how Southwest Airlines created the most profitable airline in history, but why the things it did work. It even gives some clarity as to why people followed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in a movement that changed a nation, and why we took up John F. Kennedy's challenge to put a man on the moon even after he died. The Golden Circle shows how these leaders were able to inspire action instead of manipulating people to act. This alternative perspective is not just useful for changing the world, there are practical applications for the ability to inspire too. It can be used as a guide to vastly improving leadership, corporate culture, hiring, product development, sales, and marketing. It even explains loyalty and how to create enough momentum to turn an idea into a social movement. It all starts from the inside out. It all starts with why. Before we can explore its application, let me first define the terms, starting from the outside of the circle and moving inward. What? Every single company and organization on the planet knows what they do. This is true no matter how big or small, no matter what industry. Everyone is easily able to describe the product or service a company sells or the job function they have within that system. What's are easy to identify? How? Some companies and people know how they do what they do. Whether you call them a differentiating value proposition, pro- proprietary process, or unique selling proposition, hows are often given to explain how something is different or better, not as obvious as what's. Many think these are the differentiating or motivating factors in a decision. It would be false to assume that's all that is required. There is one missing detail. Why? Very few people or companies can clearly articulate why they do what they do. When I say why, I don't mean to make money. That's a result. By why, I mean what is your purpose, cause, or belief? Why does your company exist? Why do you get out of bed every morning? And why should anyone care? When most organizations or people think, act, or communicate, they do so from the outside in, from what to why, and for good reason. They go from clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. We say what we do. We sometimes say how we do it, but we rarely say why we do what we do. But not the inspired companies, not the inspired leaders. Every single of them, every single one of them, regardless of their size or their industry, thinks, acts, and communicates from the inside out. I use Apple. I use Apple infrastructure frequently as an example simply because they have broad recognition and their products are easy to grasp and compare to others. What's more, Apple's success over time is not typical. Their ability to remain one of the most innovative companies year after year, combined with their uncanny ability to attract a cut like following, makes them a great example to demonstrate many of the principles of the Golden Circle. I'll start with a simple marketing example. If Apple were like most other companies, a marketing message from them would move from the outside in of the golden circle. It would start with some statement of what the company does or makes, followed by how they think they are different or better than the competition, followed by some call to action. With that, the company would expect some behavior in return, in this case, a purchase. A marketing message from Apple, if they were like everyone else, might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user friendly. Wanna buy one? It's not a very compelling sales pitch, but that's what most companies sell to us. This is the norm. First, they start with what they do. Here's our new car. Then they tell us how they do it or how they are better. It got leather seats, great gas mileage, and great financing. And then they make a call to action and expect a behavior. You see this pattern in business to consumer markets as well as business to business environments. Here's a law firm. Her lawyers went to the best schools and we represent the biggest clients. Hire us. This pattern is also alive and well in politics. Here's the candidate. Here are her views on taxes and immigration. See how she's different. Vote for her. In every case, the communication is organized in an attempt to convince someone of a difference of or a superior value. The golden circle. But that is not what the inspiring leaders and organizations do. Every one of them, regardless of size or industry, thinks, acts, and communicates from the inside out. Let's look at that Apple example again and rewrite the example in the order Apple actually communicates. This time, the example starts with why. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user friendly. And we happen to make great computers. Wanna buy one? It's a completely different message. It actually feels different from the first one. You're much more eager to buy a computer from Apple after reading the second version. And all I did was reverse the order of the information. There's no trickery, no manipulation, no free stuff, no aspirational messages, no celebrities. Apple doesn't simply reverse the order of information. Their message starts with why, a purpose, cause, or belief that has nothing to do with what they do. What they do, the products they make, from computers to small electronics, no longer serves as the reason to buy, they serve as the tangible proof of their cause. The design and user interface of Apple products, though important, are not enough in themselves to generate such astounding loyalty among their customers. Those important elements help make the cost tangible and rational. Others can hire top designers and brilliant engineers and make beautiful, easy to use products and copy the things Apple does. And they could even steal away Apple employees to do it, but the results would not be the same. Simply copying what Apple does or how it won't work. There is something more, something hard to describe and near impossible to copy that gives Apple such a disproportionate level of influence in the market. The example starts to prove that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. It's worth repeating. People don't buy what you do, but they buy why you do it. Apple's ability to design such innovative products so consistently and their ability to command such astounding loyalty for the products comes from more than simply what they do. The problem is, organizations use the tangible features and benefits to build a rational argument for why their company, product, or idea is better than the another. Sometimes those comparisons are made outright, and sometimes analogies or metaphors are drawn, but the effect is the same. Companies try to sell us what they do, but we buy why they do it. This is what I mean when I say communicate from the outside in. They lead with what and how. When communicating from the inside out, however, the why is offered as the reason to buy, and the what serve as the tangible proof of that belief. The things we can point to rationalize or explain the reasons. Yeah, I'm so sorry for that. Uh, People buy why you do it. Apple's ability to design such innovative products so consistently. Am I repeating? No, okay. Such innovative products so consistently and their ability to command such astounding loyalty for the product comes from more than simply what they do. The problem is organizations use the tangible features and benefits to build a rational argument for why their company, product, or idea is better than another. Sometimes those comparisons are made outright, and sometimes analogies or the metaphors are drawn, but the effect is the same. Companies try to sell us what they do, but we buy why they do it. This is what I mean when I say they communicate from the outside in. They lead with what and how. When communicating from the inside out, however, the why is offered as the reason to buy, and the what serves as a tangible proof of that belief. The things we can point to rationalize or explain the reasons we are drawn to one product, company, or idea over another. What companies do are external factors. but why they do it is something deeper. In practical terms, in practical terms, there is nothing special about Apple. It is just a company like any other. There is no real difference between Apple and any of its competitors, Dell, HP, Gateway, Toshiba. Pick one, it doesn't matter. They're all corporate structures. That's all a company is. It's a structure. They all make computers. They all have some systems that work and some that don't. They all have equal access to the same talent, the same resources, the same agencies, the same consultants, and the same media. Um, I'm so sorry for the background noise. It's just that I'm staying in hostel and I don't have any other option. They all have some good managers, some good designers, and smart engineers. They all make some products that work well and some that don't. Even Apple. Why then does Apple have such a disproportionate level of success? Why are they more innovative? Why are they consistently more profitable? And how did they manage to build such a cultish, loyal following? Something very few companies are ever able to achieve. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This is the reason Apple has earned a remarkable level of flexibility. People are obviously comfortable buying a computer from Apple, but people are also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from them or a cell phone or a DVR. Consumers and investors are completely at ease with Apple offering so many different products in so many different categories. It's not what Apple does that distinguishes them, it is why they do it. Their products give life to their cause. I'm not so foolhardy Hardy has to propose that their products don't matter. Of course they do. But it's the reason they matter that is contrary to the conventional wisdom. Um, the products unto themselves are not the reason Apple is perceived as superior. The products what Apple makes serves as the tangible proof of what they believe. It is that clear correlation between what they do and why they do it that makes Apple stand out. This is the reason we perceive Apple as being authentic. Everything they do works to demonstrate their why, to challenge the status quo. Regardless of the products they make or industry in which they operate, it's always clear that Apple thinks different. When Apple first came out with Macintosh, having an operating system based on graphical user interface, not a complicated computer language, challenged how computers worked at the time. What's more, where most technology companies saw their biggest marketing opportunity among businesses. Apple wanted to give an individual sitting at home the same power as any company. Apple's why to challenge the status quo and to empower the individual is a pattern in that it repeats in all they say and do. It comes to life in their iPod and even so more in iTunes, a service that challenged the status quo of the music industry distribution model and was better suited to how individuals consume music. The music industry was organized to sell albums, a model that evolved during a time when listening to music was largely an activity we did at home. Sony changed that in 1979 with the introduction of the Walkman. But even the Walkman and later the Discman was limited to the number of cassette tapes or CDs you could carry in addition to the device. The development of the MP3 music format changed all that. Digital compression allowed for a very high quantity of songs to be stored on relatively inexpensive and highly portable digital music devices. Our ability to walk out of the house with only one easy to carry device transformed music into something we largely listened to away from home. And the MP3 not only changed where we listen to music, it also transformed us from an album collecting culture to a song collecting culture. While the music industry was still busy trying to sell us albums, a model that no longer suited consumer behavior, Apple introduced their iPod by offering us 1,000 songs in your pocket. With the iPod and iTunes, Apple did a much better job of communicating the value of both the MP3 and the MP3 player relative to how we lived our lives. Their advertising didn't offer exhaustive descriptions of product details. It wasn't about them, it was about us, and we understood why we wanted it. Apple did not invent the MP3, nor did they invent the technology that became the iPod. Yet they are credited with the transforming the music industry with it. The multi-gigabyte portable hard drive music player was actually invented by Creative Technology Ltd, a Singapore-based technology company that rose that rose to prominence by making the Sound Blaster audio technology that enables home PCs to have sound. In fact, Apple didn't introduce the iPod until 22 months after Creative's entry into the market. This detail alone calls into question the assumption of a first mover's advantage. Given their history in digital sound, Creative was more qualified. Creative was more qualified than Apple to introduce a digital music product. The problem was they advertised their product as a 5 GB MP3 player. It is exactly the same message as Apple's 1,000 songs in your pocket. The difference is Creative told us what the product was, and Apple told us why we needed it. Only later, once we decided we had to have an iPod, did the what matter, and we choose the 5 GB version, 10 GB version, and so on. The tangible details that prove we could get the 1,000 songs in our pocket. Our decision started with why, and so did Apple's offering. How many of us can how many of us can say that How many of us can say with certainty that indeed an iPod is actually better than Creative Zen? iPods, for example, are still plagued with battery life and battery replacement issues. They tend to just die. Maybe a Zen is better. The reality is, we don't even care if it is. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And it is Apple's clarity of why that gives them such a remarkable ability to innovate, often competing against companies seemingly more qualified than they, and succeed in industries outside their core business. The same cannot be said for companies with a fuzzy sense of why. When an organization defines itself by what it does, that's all it will ever be able to do. Apple's competitors, having defined themselves by the products or services, regardless of their differentiating value proposition, are not afforded the same freedom. Gateway, for example, started selling flat screen TVs in 2003. Having made flat screen monitors for years, they were every bit they were every bit as qualified to make and sell TVs. But the company failed to make a credible name for itself among consumer electronic brands and gave up the business 2 years later to focus on its core business. Dell came up with PDA in 2002 and MP3 players in 2003, but lasted only a few years in each market. Dell makes good quality products and is fully qualified to produce these other technologies. The problem was they had defined themselves by what they did. They made computers, and it simply didn't make sense to us to buy a PDA or MP3 player from them. It didn't feel right. How many people do you think would stand online for 6 hours to buy a new cell phone from Dell? As they did for the release of Apple's phones. People couldn't see Dell as anything more than a computer company. It just didn't make sense. Poor sales quickly ended Dell's desire to enter the small electronic goods market. Instead, they opted to focus on their core business. Unless Dell, like so many others, can rediscover their founding purpose, cause, or belief and start with why in all they say and do, all they will ever do is sell computers. They will be stuck in their core business. Apple, unlike its competitors, has designed has designed Apple, unlike its core competitors, has defined itself by why it does things, not what it does. It is not a computer company, but a company that challenges the status quo and offers individuals simpler alternatives. Apple even changed its legal name in 2007 from Apple Computer to Apple Inc. to reflect the fact that they were more than just a computer company. Practically speaking, it doesn't really matter what a company's legal name is. For Apple, however, having the word computer in their name didn't limit what they could do. It is limited how they thought of themselves. The change, uh, the change wasn't practical, it was philosophical. Apple's why was formed at its founding in the late 1970s and hasn't changed to this date. Regardless of the products they make or the industries into which they migrate, their why still remains a constant, and Apple's intention to challenge accepted thinking was proved prophetic. As a computer company, they redirected the course of the personal computing industry. As a small electronics company, they have challenged the traditional dominance of companies like Sony and Philips. As a purveyor of mobile phones, they pushed the old hands, Motorola, Ericsson, and Nokia, to re-examine their own business. Apple's ability to enter and even dominate so many different industries has even challenged what it means to be a computer company in the first place, regardless of what it does, and we know why Apple exists. Um, Hello. I think we will stop here for today. Is that fine? Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I hope everyone has understood today's session. Or if you guys have any queries or if you want to reflect on anything on today's session, you could do it. Hello?
Hello.
Hello, yeah. Hello, yes.
Good evening, everyone.
Uh,
The book only says start with why, and author has given the major example of Apple, and we all know that why Apple products are more like everyone likes it, even if it isn't within their reach, and it is exactly what we always, whenever we talk to somebody or any other company or whatever you see, when it talks about us, we feel more comfortable. Even if we are having a conversation, and when I am listening to the other person more, it will always create that interest of why. Making the you don't have to like see the tagline that they are given. 1,000 songs in your pocket. Even though the company was better, but this formula of making the other person or the other to the end user, they have made them feel special. This is what why is. When you make the other person feel why they are important to us. And very truly said, like nobody would stand for 6 or 8 long hours to buy a Dell product or anything. But yes, Apple, when it comes out, because it's not only about innovation, it is how it treats its customers. It develops the innovation is based on what the consumer wants. So the why here is very. This is what I.
okay, that's a yes, you're absolutely right, Taranjit ma'am. Yes. Um, I actually have to attend like another meeting. If possible, could I leave, ma'am, for today? Meera, ma'am, if there's anyone else willing to speak for now? Hello?
Yes, hello.
Yes, Santosh, yes, go ahead.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah,
So, So mainly the author want to emphasize us that most of the organizations think that manipulation is a norm, and because they are able to make a lot of transactions, but these are not suitable for the long run, because in the long run what is important is the loyalty and trustworthiness. And he gave the example of Apple organization and also the golden law. So the law that is being followed by most of the organization is what they do, how they do, and why they do. But according to Simon Sinek, uh, we should start with why, because it gives us the core belief or purpose behind what you do. And once why is figured out, and then we go to the how. That is the process or value that allows you to bring your purpose to life. And once the how part is done, what part is the visual result of of your how and why. Yeah. So thanks, sir.
Thank you, Santosh. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Yeah, if there's nothing else, we could end the meeting for now. Ma'am, could we end the meeting?
Thank you so much, Tejasri, for reading for
Yeah.
us.
Have all of you spoken, like any Santosh?
Yeah, Santosh and Saranjit spoke.
Okay. Nikhil, do you want to speak? Ravalya, just call out their names, Tejasri, once. So
Yes,
that,
ma'am.
like, yeah, and then if there's not this one, then you can close.
Ambika, Anushka,
Oh,
Nikhil,
yeah.
Ravalya, Santosh spoke. Shubhangi and Saranjit ma'am also spoke. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.